So what's in the news?
Well, I think a big story that broke this weekend is the Morricone Tarantino.
I was going to say that, yeah.
I mean,
well, what is this now?
Now, Morricone says, I mean, I'm going to the Hollywood Reporter, although I read it in the New York Times yesterday, but, Morricone said he would never work with Tarantino again because he places music in his films without coherence. And it sounds
interesting.
And I can see where, look, I can see where that's possible. You're Morricone, like, well, no, the music I used here was for this particular scene, but Tarantino he has this whole thing when he writes something, he has the music from another film or whatever, that he wants to use, the way he wants to use it. But I think, from what I can gather from this article, or from this story that's broken in the last couple of days, is that Morricone was just not a fan of Django Unchained. He said there's too much blood in it. And I think that might have thrown him off.
Well, and what surprised me, first of all, is that they worked together, because my impression was this was all pre-existing music that Morricone already did, but apparently they did with the two Kill Bills and Inglourious Bastards.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just figured it was something like Tarantino went to his thing, I want to use this, this track or something. I had no idea that there was actually like a relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was one original track that was done by Morricone and his daughter.
Yeah,
for
Django.
For
the three original pieces of music, in the movie, which is a first for a Tarantino film, but this caught me off guard. My mom showed this to me yesterday morning. I was like, really? This is shocking. I mean,
well, I mean, I do find sometimes that Tarantino's choices for tracks during particular scenes sometimes don't work. Like for me, in Django, that scene with 100 Black Coffins, the Rick Ross song, I thought that totally did not work. But for the most part, he makes pretty smart choices, I think.
Well, is he doing anything different than De Palma or Kubrick, for that matter?
Well, I think that he's placing a little bit too much music in his movies. I think that's one of the problems, is that there's a surplus of music in his films.
Remember when he used to have a rule that he wouldn't use music unless it was used realistically, unless somebody was listening to it on the radio,
right?
Or he wouldn't use traditional score.
Right.
And then he broke from that. I think his music choices are very unique most of the times, and they're daring and risk taking.
Yeah.
And if you take that approach, then sometimes you're going to stumble. Sometimes it's not going to work as well.
But I mean, he
true.
has this thing. I'm under the impression that he has this thing that I think all of us on this show and all of us in this genre and in this industry, we've all said, oh, we'd like to use this. If we were making a movie, we'd like to do this, and he's gone ahead and done it. It's interesting, though, I can understand it. You're Morricone, you've given him and Rodriguez so much material to work with, and I can imagine, well, I wouldn't have used it for this, but it was something that caught me off guard. It was one of the things like you would never expect to see that story in the paper, and it's like, wow, it's there.
I'm also surprised too that Morricone doesn't have good words to say for him about when he does appropriate music from other movies and it works perfectly in that particular film. I'm thinking
like Under Fire.
Exactly, like the Goldsmith score for Under Fire being used in Django, or that music from White Lightning that was used in Inglourious Bastards.
Right, yeah.
Stuff like that is just genius to me.
And no one's done more to promote the altar of the master Morricone more than Tarantino over the past 10-15 years.
Yeah, remember, I guess it starts with Rodriguez with El Mariachi, and remember, I love Sergio Leone, but Sergio Leone is not, until Rodriguez and especially Tarantino, is not someone that's held up in high esteem in America, with American film critics and cinema. People, do not hold Sergio Leone up to such a high standard, put him on a pedestal until these two filmmakers started making movies. I don't want to say he was considered a joke, but he was not taken seriously. And those two guys really, helped put Leone and Morricone in, hey, you got to take these guys seriously. So it was just an odd story. All the things that I would expect to see, Morricone, criticizing Tarantino was not one of them.
That's a surprise. So does that mean that in future Tarantino movies we're not going to be hearing any Morricone tracks? Because even if they're pre-recorded?
He's probably got, I want to use this track, and well, the hell with him. Who cares?
Yeah, 84 years old, Morricone.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, like a legendary career.
Mm-hmm.
It's always amazing to me how he's composed so many films, hundreds, and how freely he copies himself.
Right.
Yeah.
But that I guess that's what comes with being a master, is that he doesn't have to copy anyone else's kind of style.
Right.
He has a style completely his own, and when he does a movie like Disclosure, he'll say, "Oh, okay, well, I'll just put in my theme from DuckYouSucker, and that'll be the theme to Disclosure," and it's the same theme.
Right.
Right.
It's interesting.
He's done so many scores for a lot of Italian movies or in Spanish movies that have never even made it, here. Hundreds of movies that have very rarely been seen by American eyes. So, except for the biggest fans out there. But, so he's got tremendous, plus he's done albums, hundreds of albums, at least 50 albums of pop music, too, just the non-movie music. So, the guy's a machine, and if he wants to steal from himself, that's fine.
Right.
He's definitely earned that right.